and I'm interviewing
Donald Robertson.
he's going to say something to gay kids or any kid who's thinking of committing suicide. Did you experience any bullying at all when you were in school?
Yes, I was always the smallest kid in class and the shyest, and so I was constantly being bullied, and even often by the girls. My response was to withdrawal, and I became a literary person. Spent a lot of time reading, and then later in life I became an outdoors person. I tend to be friendly on the surface, but I'm still something of a loner, even to this day, though many of my friends find that hard to believe. That's what I believe. I was a big fan of science fiction. I read Robert Heinlein, who was, even though I totally disagree with his politics at this point in life, he was very good at establishing self-worth. He was kind of the all-American novelist in that he captured what a teenager wanted to be in the 50s or 60s. He captured the American can-do any capability, I can do anything feeling, and made it convincing for a teenager. And I became very wrapped up in that, and that's where some of my outdoor activities came later.
Oh, what kind of outdoor activities?
I used to do a lot of backpacking, mostly in Scotland, because at the time I don't drive, and at the time I was doing it, it was easier to get to Scotland than it was to rural California. And then my ancestry is Scottish, so those all fit together.
You also do Scottish dancing, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do both square dancing with a gay group and Scottish dancing with a social group, and also do Highland dancing. Dancing was probably my big breakthrough on the social front. There's kind of two stories to that. First is that my ancestry is Scottish, and I'd seen the sign on 24th Street of Scottish dancing, and I've been in the back of my mind that I should do that sometime. And just for the purposes of this story, my primary orientation is straight, but I have experienced and enjoyed bisexual relationships. And however, my best friend then and now got tired of me always whining about never meeting women, and so she said, go to classes, that's where women hang out. So I put those two things together and went to a Scottish dance class, and immediately women became of secondary importance. I immediately fell in love with dance, and I've done more and more dance forms ever since.
You do a lot of square dancing also.
Now I do, yeah, that's my newest dance form, and in some ways the hardest, I think. It's not the most physically demanding, but it certainly demands the most mental capability and being on top of things. And I think dance was very important to me because in some ways it's safe flirting. You can have relationships with people without risk or without substantial risk. And I think that's very important for somebody who's shy or somebody who doesn't deal with society very well, because then you can have friends without taking the risk of asking someone on a date or any of the other things that are hard to do.
Yeah, what I said, because I was in a group once on an entirely different matter, I said I love square dancing because you get to hug the people and hold the people, and it's extremely warm and everything. But when you walk out the door, you don't have to talk to them anymore. I
would fully agree with that statement and that attitude. That said, though, I have met very few people in the dance world that I didn't like. There have been a few people, but it's very rare. I think people who dance tend to be open people, and I've always seemed to fit into the dance community wherever I go.
As a straight person, do you see gay people being treated any differently now than when they were in school, perhaps?
I would say it's more open. I didn't know that gay people existed really when I was in school. And so my own bisexual feelings were kind of, I didn't know how to deal with them.
Or what would you say to young people, gay people who are feeling suicidal about the way that straight people have changed in their relationship and their behavior towards gay people in the last 20 years?
Well, I think there's two things that really need to be understood, and they aren't necessarily comfortable things, and from the point of view of a straight person, an older straight person who has had to grow into this new world without being born into it. And people in my cultural milieu and age were brought up in a situation where gay people can be frightening. And I think you have to understand that just because somebody is scared of you or a little uncomfortable does not mean that they don't like you. Today I have, I believe, completely overcome my fears. I'm dancing in a gay square dance troupe. Two of my very best friends in the Scottish dance community are a couple, two male couples. And likewise, I have very good friends in Santa Cruz who are Scottish dancers who are a lesbian couple. And again, so these are my best friends. So I think you have to give people time to deal with their issues without taking it completely personally and saying that it's me that's at fault. It's not you. It's other people and society. And even the other people may not be at fault. It takes time to learn to deal with a new situation.
So your advice to them is, if they come into social situations as they become more adult and they find some hesitancy in relation to them, they shouldn't necessarily take it as that the people that they're having problems with really don't like them, but simply don't know how to deal with them.
I think that's true. And also, if you respond as if these uncomfortable people are the enemy, then that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. However, I'm all talking about non-violent situations. In any kind of violent situation, you have to defend yourself.
If you had a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17-year-old who was gay and being bullied in front of you, what would you tell them to expect for the future of themselves?
The adult world is kind of by definition more mature than the teenage world. And things won't necessarily get better in the near term, I think, but I also think that people will deal with each other on a more mature basis, even if they're still uncomfortable. As you become an adult, people will be more willing to let you do your own thing than they are in high school. High school kids are wrapped up in their emotions and and they react without thinking a lot of times, while an adult would think first, or often. You know, these are all generalizations, but an adult often will think first and then act.
Is there anything else you would like to say?
One thing I did want to say is that I think thoughts of suicide are often tied up with depression. And my mother was clinically depressed, and I have inherited some of that and dealt with depression in one way or another all my life. I've never used drugs to combat it. I've always combated it myself and not really gone to doctors or anything, which I'm not saying is good advice. It's just what I've done. And my way of dealing with it has been to be active. Go out and enjoy nature. Your mind can think through a lot of problems when you're not actively thinking about your problem. If you go for a long walk, then your mind will think things through without you really being aware that you're thinking them through. And all of a sudden, something will pop into my head that tells me an answer to a problem, you know, days or weeks after. And if you commit suicide or seriously thinking about it, you don't give that process time to work its way through. I think you can always change your mind later, but once you've done something, it's final. You can't change it later. So give things time to work themselves out.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very, very much.
Okay.